Hello, everyone, and welcome to the program. This is Sunday Politics live on Channels Television. I'm Seun Okimale at Channels Television's global headquarters here in Lagos, Nigeria. Tonight, we will talk about the national security question in Nigeria, the school abductions that we're seeing that's become a weekly affair, those that have been released, and also some politics. But before we get into our major conversations for tonight, let's give you an update on some of the stories that we have monitored for you on this program. And it's about the politics of Imo State. The decision of the Imo State government to confiscate properties linked to a former governor and senator representing Imo West Senatorial District, Senator Rochas Okorocha, are taking another turn. The governor, Hope Uzodinma, met with some citizens of Imo State yesterday and vowed that it will implement a report of the Gazette of a committee set up to investigate the former governor, Rochas Okorocha, and some asset linked to him. Take a listen to Governor Hope Uzodinma on Senator Rochas Okorocha.
The people saw in black and white that in 8 years of administration of Rochas Okorocha, there was no due process in governance. Contracts were awarded without recourse to due process. Lands belonging to both government and private citizens were forcefully acquired by them and given to themselves and their cronies. The Owerri Master Plan, jealously preserved for years by previous administrations, was recklessly and fragrantly abused by the Okorocha administration. In resume, that era was rightly seen by many as the dark years in the history of governance in Imo State, characterized by lawlessness, abuse of office, ill-informed, audacious attempts to supplant democracy with aristocracy. Against this background, the statement then, as it remains now, is that there must be a holistic probe of the administration of Rochas Okorocha.
You heard the governor there, Hope Uzodinma, but well, the senator who is involved in this matter, Senator Rochas Okorocha, the former governor, is now alleging an assassination attempt on his life. The senator says his son-in-law was allegedly shot in Owerri, the Imo State capital, when, according to him, thugs suspected to be loyal to the state government attacked him. He said the man, talking about his son-in-law now, will be flown abroad for treatment after 3 failed surgeries. Take a listen to Senator Okorocha.
I came to see Dr. Uzo, my in-law that was shot at the Royal Spring Palm Hotel. But what I'm concerned now is about his life, but I think I thank God that he's alive. But the report I'm getting is not quite pleasing from the hospital regarding the 3 surgeries so far conducted since arrival. And we're hoping that he should fly out of the country immediately to further examination. It's really sad that this attempt to, this assassination attempt has resulted to this, where we find ourselves today. But I thank God he's alive. But we're quickly making arrangements with the hospital to move him out of this place to see whether he can get examination. Because 3 surgeries has taken place. They are suggesting that he might be needing a transplant to cut in part of his body for another this and all that. But we're hoping things get better.
So you heard it. We just thought to update you on what is happening there in the most. We keep our tabs on that. Well, let's talk about some more politics. There being a recent stir in the political space in Nigeria when a former Minister of Aviation and a chieftain of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Chief Femi Fani-Kayode, was said to be on the way out of the PDP and headed for the APC. that generated a lot of controversies. A lot of things happened since that scenario played out, especially with some of the meetings and talks that we've seen the former minister engaging with the party leaders and some in the other political party. But the former minister is here tonight with us. Chief Femi Fani-Kayode is a guest on the program tonight, and he joins us from our Abuja studio. Thank you, Chief Fani-Kayode, for joining us tonight. Let's begin the conversation by getting clarity on some of the things that we've seen and heard. Now that you're here physically with us, we can get all of those clarity. There are indications that you were leaving the PDP for the APC, but it appears you have made a U-turn. What happened?
I wouldn't say a U-turn was made. I said from the outset of this whole issue that I was in the PDP. I never said that I was in the APC. What I said was that we were having discussions with very senior people within the APC who happen to be friends of mine, and we're working closely together to bring this country together and to build bridges and to ensure we have unity and progress. And of course, all kinds of things happen in politics. Suggestions have been made. Negotiations have been entered into, discussions have been had, and options have been considered. But I never said I left the PDP. I am still in the PDP. However, I do have very, very, very close friends within the APC, as I do the PDP as well. This has always been the case with me. I believe in cross-fertilization of ideas, and I believe strongly in working closely with even those I may not agree with politically.
So, give us a sense of what is happening. Is it a situation that you never wanted to join the APC, or something happened along the line that you changed your mind because there was a meeting with yourself and the leadership of the PDP? Were they prevailing on you to stay back in the PDP, or what exactly were the contents or the matter for discussion at that meeting on Friday?
Well, having been a leading member of the party for many, many years now, it shouldn't be as a surprise to anybody that from time to time, members of the National Working Committee do go out of their way, and it's a great honor for them to come to my home and to discuss issues with me, issues touching and concerning our party, some reservations and some issues that some of us may have had. We've ironed all these out, whatever it is that the problems were, not just about me, but also not just from me, but also from a number of other people. I believe we've gone quite far in resolving all these issues. And but that is a family affair. It's a private issue in terms of the family of the PDP. And I'm not prepared to go into detail about what transpired in that meeting. But what I will tell you is that it's an honor for me that the NWC, not any committee, not a delegation, but the NWC, together with and every single officer of the NWC, were gracious enough to come to my home and speak with me about our party and our future, what we hold for the country, and how we're going to move forward. I'm also happy at the fact and gladdened and honored by the fact that the chairman of the PDP Ministers Forum, Alhaji Tanimu Turaki, who is a great man, senior advocate of Nigeria, also came with that delegation to represent the former ministers. So all these issues have been discussed, a number of matters have been looked into, and we'll see how we move forward from here.
Chief Fani-Kayode, give us a sense of what is happening really, because a lot of people are in the dark. So it doesn't look like the feeling that a lot of Nigerians have that politics in Nigeria is more of abracadabra. The more you see, the less you understand, or the less you see. Is it that you never wanted to leave the PDP, or something happened along the line?
We keep pressing on this issue. Let me tell you again, what I wanted to do or what I didn't want to do is something that I'll keep firmly to myself. Politics is an issue that changes from day to day. People go in different directions depending on what they feel is happening around them. Like in any family, there are issues from time to time within a wider political family. But the most important thing is what I do, not what I intended to do or what somebody may believe that I'm doing, but what I'm actually doing. And I'm saying to you that I have had many discussions with people across party lines, as have many other party leaders. I have remained in the PDP. I am still in the PDP, and we're working out issues within the PDP, and I'm happy to be here. I'm also telling you that I'm speaking to people from other parties who I respect, as are other members of the PDP, and we're happy to do that because we are all politicians, and we must learn to speak to one another. We must learn to understand one another, and we must learn to build bridges. That is perfectly natural. In fact, we should have done more of that before. It's a normal thing, and I don't think it's adakabra at all. I think it's a very, very positive thing. And we come to understand one another, and we can move this nation together, forward together, without necessarily throwing stones at each other. And I think that's the way forward, and that's certainly the way that most of us are playing politics now. It's a good thing.
So, I mean, so give us a sense of some of these issues that are taking you across party lines.
I think the most important, what I'm saying is we're discussing across party lines. I haven't crossed party lines. And it's very, very important to make that distinction. And you'll probably find that there's a commonality of purpose amongst virtually all of us. We all want peace, we all want progress, we all want unity, we all want understanding. And I think most important of all is that we all recognize the fact that this country is on the brink of war. The security situation is so bad that it's just not good enough for us to get up and be throwing stones at, for example, the president or the government and saying they haven't done enough. We've got to prefer solutions to these problems that we are all facing, and we've also got to be able to say things to them privately, which we may not want to say publicly because it might create an even greater problem. But this country is divided now. It's divided on regional, ethnic and religious lines. We cannot run away from that fact. Everything that's happening today, I was on your program and I told you would happen as far back as 2015, and sadly I've been proved right. Well, there's no point in going on about who is right or who is wrong. It's time for us to come together, to talk to one another, to talk. Northerners should talk to Southerners, Southerners should talk to Northerners, Christians should talk to Muslims, APC should talk to PDP, and APGA should be included, and anybody else that is a leader. Every stakeholder in this country must come together today, because what we're facing is a situation which might cause a very brutal, bloody civil war for the next 50 years in this nation. And believe me, I kid you not when I say that. We are there on the ground. We interact with people. And if you look at what's happening in the north, you look at what's happening in the Middle Belt, you look at what's happening in the southwest, the south-south, and the southeast, all you see is chaos, carnage, murder, and killing, and kidnappings everywhere, usually by the same suspects. And it's a very tragic situation which affects each and every one of us. So if you are a leader that is still practicing politics in the normal way, that is to say, to act as if there is no point in dialogue, then you're not really a leader. It's time for us to come together, bury our differences as one, and try to solve the problems of this country together.
All right. So we'll come to some specifics, but let's just do some clarifications also. The idea of you having talks and conversation with politicians out of the PDP, especially within the APC, knowing your strong criticism of the APC and the Buhari government, isn't it intriguing, Mr. Fani Kaode or Chief Fani Kaode, or don't you think so, considering that you have been a strong critic of the APC and the Buhari presidency, how do you defend it? I mean, you got into a point that there are speculations of you wanting to go to the APC. I mean, that's not going to be a news anyways because, I mean, you've been in the APC before you left.
Let me tell you why first of all, I really don't think I need to defend it to you or to anybody else. But let me explain one or two things about the way this thing works. I have been in opposition, and I've been in the PDP for almost 20 years now. For almost 9 months of this 20 years, I think in 2013 or thereabouts, before APC was formed, I was outside of the PDP, and I was with those that eventually formed the APC. 9 months out of almost 20 years. Outside of that, I've been consistent and clear in my views. For the last 5 years, I've been the leading critic and opposition member of this government. There was a survey by Vanguard newspaper of the top 10 critics of this government in terms of consistency. I was voted as #1 by readers of Vanguard newspaper. And I have no apology for that. I'm very proud of that. That is what I've been doing, and that is what I do, and I will continue to speak out against injustice and what I think is inequitable behavior or bad governance. However, that does not preclude me or stop me from speaking with those on the other side of the political divide. Simply because you oppose a policy, simply because you are not you're a critic of a government or you're in the opposition party, it does not mean you don't talk to the other side. We are not a cult in this party. We are not a cult in Nigerian politics. We're not cultists. We're politicians. And it is far more important for us to ensure that we talk rather than make the situation worse, widen the gap between our various peoples and end up having a very bloody civil war. Now, I think that you should be very thankful that you have leaders and politicians in this country, even critics of the government and those in opposition, that are ready to talk to reasonable people on the other side. And those I talk to are reasonable people, and they also believe I'm reasonable. We don't all have to be in the same political family, and if we choose and we feel strongly enough about it, we can cross over and you defend your own actions as an individual. This has happened over and over again. If you look at the team Saraki led out of the PDP in 2015 and went over to the APC, which eventually gave them victory. Then he now came back with the same team of governors back to PDP again. People didn't criticize that. Today, if you see Orji Kalu and Wike sitting together in Port Harcourt having a discussion, that's a good thing. Nobody criticizes that. It's only when Femi Fani-Kayode sits down and talks to a good friend of mine, Yaya Bello, and also Buni, the national chairman, the new national chairman of the APC, that it becomes a matter of controversy and so on and so forth. Politicians must learn to talk across party lines. We can continue to criticize and oppose, but at the same time, we should find common ground, and you can only find common ground when you talk to one another. And I say this only because we are in a very serious situation in this country. The Southeast, for example, planes are bombing, Air Force jets are bombing the forests. The Southwest, you have virtually an uprising from the people standing against the politicians, standing against anybody that comes from outside the Southwest, believing they're there to kill all of them. The Northeast, you have Boko Haram and terrorism. The Northwest, you have Fulani, foreign killer Fulani herdsmen, killing even people in Sokoto, in Zamfara, and everywhere else. The Middle Belt, you have chaos, you have the mass murder of so many people. This country is on fire, and those of us that are leaders must come together, understand our differences, explore ways of ensuring that this thing does not explode into a civil war, and ensure that we move forward in unity and in progress. And that is what many of us are trying to do now, and we will continue to do that. Doesn't mean we're in the same party, doesn't mean we're sleeping in the same bed. What it means is that there must be commonality of purpose and understanding that we must bring our people together and ensure that we get through this very difficult time.
So, Chief Fani-Kayode, how then do you think, or how do you hope that the government should handle the problem facing it?
Well, there are so many problems, and there are so many. But if we're talking about security, for example, because there are so many areas where there are problems and where I think they didn't get it right. But if you're talking about security, for example, the first thing this government has to do is to cultivate and develop the political will to crush the terrorists. I've said this from the beginning, and I'm saying it today. I've said it privately, and I'm saying it publicly. You need to crush the terrorists. Now, who are these terrorists? On the one hand, you have Boko Haram in the Northeast primarily, and then you have the Fulani herdsmen, that is the killer Fulani herdsmen, in the Northwest. These are the two main problems that we have in Nigeria today, and the government has to crush them. In terms of Boko Haram, for example, when President Goodluck Jonathan was in power, he actually went out of his way and he ensured that we had help from foreigners. He brought in people, I think they were South African mercenaries or whatever it is, and they did an excellent job. Now, forget about the disinformation that has been put out there. At the time of the election, you and I know very well, the whole of the Northeast have been cleared of Boko Haram except for Sambisa Forest. That was primarily the work of the Nigerian army in conjunction with foreign mercenaries that were contracted to do the job, and they did an excellent job. Now, that's what we need to do there today. That's what I believe, because let's swallow our pride and let's understand that we need help. You go to the Northwest, the same thing is happening, where you have an influx of foreign Fulani killers. Not necessarily just herdsmen, but killers. Most of them don't even have cows. And they're slaughtering our people every day, kidnapping for ransom. We need to afford the same treatment to that side of our country, strengthen the army, and bring in foreigners to help us to solve that problem. You come down to the south-south, you come down to the south-southwest, where you have massive numbers of these same killer herdsmen in our forests, to the extent that the local population are beginning to rise up to say, if government doesn't do anything about it, we will sweep away all the politicians and we will do it ourselves. And that is what Sunday Igboho, for example, represents. Now, in order to solve that problem, the military has to go down there and kill every single one of them, flush them out. You go to the southeast, you have to ensure that there's equity and justice. You stop killing the local people there, and instead you face those that have come to kill them from outside. And you certainly stop bombing your own people. That is another way of solving this problem. There are so many. The south-south, again, is beginning to rise up in insurgency, making threats to the unity of the country. You've got to appease them. You've got to bring everybody together in love. And of course, in the Middle Belt, which is probably the most hardest hit area over the last 5 years, you've got to stop the targeting of both Christian and Muslim populations by these same foreign killer Fulani herdsmen. They're not Nigerians. 90% of them are non-Nigerians that come through our borders and have just taken Nigeria as a war zone where they can kill, rape, pillage, kidnap, and extort money from each and every one of us. And I do not believe the response has been strong enough. I think we need to come together, perhaps consider forming a government of national unity across party lines and doing something about this problem.
Chief Anikaude, we are due for a first break on the program. But when we come back, of course, we get your final thoughts on some of the issues that we have left for you tonight. Let's take a break, everyone. And up next, our conversation will shift predominantly to the issues of security situation in the country. President Buhari is talking tough about the activities of the bandits. But how do we stop these criminal elements? Stay with us, everyone. Our concluding moment with Chief Anikaude, and we have a senator also on the program tonight. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us on the program. Let's get back to our conversation with Chief Femi Fani-Kayode, former Minister of Aviation and a chieftain of the People's Democratic Party, the PDP. Thank you, Chief Fani-Kayode, for your time tonight. Let's get back to our conversation. And within the few minutes that we have left, I'd like us to touch on some very critical issues. You mentioned the issue of security, but let me take you back quickly on the situation in your party, the PDP. But I'd like you also to react to what has been some concern for some APC member when they heard that you were coming to their party. On that knowledge, some of them protested. How does that make you feel?
Me feel anything? Absolutely nothing. First of all, this is the first time I'll hear somebody will complain about somebody coming when that person has not, told them that they're coming anywhere. So that's the first problem. The second problem is in any political party with a kind of harsh treatment and solid body blows and left hooks and right crosses that I've given the APC over the last 5 years, every day, I'm not surprised at all that some people will feel that way. However, there are a very small number of people, and I know who they represent. They represent a small segment of the party. The most important thing is that the heart of the party, the elements, the strength of the party, people like Yaya Bello, people like Buni, the national chairman, and so on and so forth, are the ones reaching out. Those that are stuck in the past and don't see the wisdom in reaching out, even with adversaries from the past, are simply ignorant, and they simply don't even know what politics is all about. We have a major problem today. It's not about intra-party politics or inter-party politics. We still have our differences. It's not about policy. We don't all have to agree on policy. It's about saving our nation. And I will sit with anybody from any party that has any ideology, providing that person wants peace and progress. And that's how a sensible person ought to be behaving. So I lose no sleep over that sort of thing. It's to be expected. And it's the first time I've heard about somebody being rejected when, in fact, they never made an application for anything. So I think we should move on from there and really talk about security.
All right. But I mean, what I probably would have put a follow-up on that, because the question would then be, if they had not protested, maybe you would have found yourself in the APC. But let me allow you to speak on this, Chief Anikaude. Things are not going well with your party, the PDP, and that's why we see the reconciliation
Listen to
moves
me.
and
Listen
talks.
to me very carefully, Sheung. Are you there?
I'm here. Yeah, go
Are
ahead.
you there?
Yeah.
I can't hear you suddenly. Sorry.
So please go ahead. I can hear you. Go ahead.
I can't
We can
hear you, but I hope you can hear me. Listen to me very carefully. The people that matter within a political party are those that are close to the president and those that are working with the president and those that lead the party. Okay? And these are the people that we are talking to, not about crossing over, but about bringing the country, moving the country forward and working together. I don't like many people in the APC either, just as many in the APC or some in the APC don't like me. It's not about liking, it's not about loving, it's not about getting married, it's not a marriage, it's about moving our country forward together. And I find it curious that there should be so much consternation about what I do or what I don't do. I actually feel very much like the beautiful bride. So many people love me on both sides of the political divide, and that's a good thing. That's a wonderful thing. It's an encouraging thing. And that's what I hold on to, and that's why but I'm in the PDP. I'm within my own party. I never intended to leave my party. I've had discussions with good men on the other side. We will continue to have those discussions, and it has nothing to do with what anybody else may feel. In our own party, for example, there are many people that feel very bad that I should even sit with talk to people on the other side. But I point out to them that this is what we need to do if we're serious about unity. You asked me a question earlier, which I think is far more important, about how to move forward. One of the things I'll tell you right now is this. If you want good security in this country and solve the security problem, you need to begin a process of opening negotiations with people like Sunday Igboho, who represent 90% of Yoruba people in this country today in their thinking, and open negotiations and deprescribe an organization like IPOB. I believe this strongly. In order for us to move forward as a nation, anybody that has not killed anybody, I think we should sit and talk to. And I think we need to come together, build bridges, talk to even past enemies, past adversaries, in order to save Nigeria. So this is well beyond party politics. It's bigger than politics. It's bigger than party. Leaders make decisions that may be difficult and painful sometimes and make sacrifices in order to move the country forward.
Chief Anikade, we just have about 60 seconds to the end of the program.
We have peace in this country, understanding, and we move the country forward.
We have just about 60 seconds, but I don't know how we're going to do it. There are two questions that I'd like to ask you, but I don't know how we can get these two questions answered in just 60 seconds. The first is going to be the issue of your party. There seems to be like, it looks like things are falling apart. And a lot of internal bickerings in your party. I'd like you to touch on that and perhaps also touch on what is happening between the governor of Benue State and that of Bauchi. They both have disagreed on this issue of security. You have taken sides, obviously, because I read about your comments about this situation. If in 30 seconds you can answer that, then I can actually pose our last question on the program for you.
It's amazing. Well, let me put it to you like this. First of all, I don't see any rancor within the PDP. I see disagreements here and there. That's natural in any family. People are coming together. The party is strong. The party is bold. The party is looking to the future. There may be a few people that are not happy. I know the party leadership is working hard to bring everybody on board, and let's see how it goes. So there's certainly no disarray. There may be a few disagreements here and there, but we're working on it. And I have absolute confidence in the party leadership that these matters will be worked out. And so that's number one. Number two, the issue of my good friend, Governor Bala Mohammed, and also Governor Otum. I sympathize with Governor Otum and the people of Benue State over what they've been subjected to for the last 5 years. I have spoken out more than anybody else about the killings that their people have been subjected to by armed militants and Fulani herdsmen and killers in Benue State. More than anybody else, even more than Otum himself, even though I'm not from there. However, on this issue, what did Bala say? Bala Mohammed of Bauchi said that the Fulani herdsmen are entitled to carry AK-47s, that in order to protect themselves and to protect their cows. I disagree with that. I don't think anybody should be allowed to carry weapons. And if they do carry weapons, let all of us carry weapons. That was my position. And of course, Otom also disagreed with that. However, where he, I think, got it wrong was when he said that Bala Mohammed himself is a terrorist. because he voiced that opinion. Now, I've known Bala Mohammed since 2005. I've known him when I was Minister of Aviation. I knew him when he was in the Senate. I knew him when we were in the Ministers' Forum together. I knew him when we were in detention together. I've known him, we're close. And I can tell you, he and I have come together to face the real terrorists who at one point wanted to lead our party, the PDP, and who we joined forces and threw the man out. He wanted to be our national chairman. And I know how strongly he feels about killing other people. He's not a killer, he's not a terrorist, but we may disagree, and we do disagree on a number of fundamental issues. But to call him a terrorist, I felt the Governor Otum, with the greatest respect to him, went a little bit too far. That's not Bala Mohammed at all. I know him, and I will always stand up for my friends. So, if not for Bala Mohammed and people like that,
we're obviously out of time.
Because he led the campaign for good luck
if you can touch on this in 20 seconds, it will be good. The politics of zoning has been made popular by the PDP and is now like an unwritten rule. Where do you think will be fair for the presidency to be zoned to in 2023? Just in 20 seconds, please.
Well, it all depends on which party you're talking about. For me personally, I think the idea of a southern presidency is a very attractive thing, because what's been happening over the last would have been 8 years by 2023 is something that has divided our country. I mean, nobody can deny that. And nationalism, Yoruba nationalism, Igbo nationalism, the quest for Oduduwa, the quest for Biafra, the quest for the Niger Delta Republic, and these are very, very strong right now. The overwhelming majority of the young people believe in these causes, and therefore you need to make the South feel appeased. You need to give them something to hold on to. However, that might not even solve the problem. However, there are some people that believe that politics is a game of numbers. Why should it go to the South? Some may want to keep it in the North. It all depends on which party you're talking about. And when the time comes, we'll look at that. We will all make an input. We'll all participate in that decision, and we'll identify who it is that can rule this country together in 2020, that can rule this country well from 2023 onwards and bring us back, pull us back from the brink.
Chief Femi Fani-Kayode, chieftain of the PDP and a former aviation minister, thank you for your time tonight with us on the program.
Very much. Shalom. Thank you.
Let's switch gears now. The past weeks and months have been challenging for the nation. We now have new service chiefs, but the Inspector General of Police get a 3-month tenure elongation, and banditry abductions have become a weekly occurrence. So many issues to talk on. So we have the chairman of the Senate Committee on the Army, Senator Ali Ndume, to get his views on some of these critical matters. But before then, the president made a very critical comment. The president said that owners of schools, especially in the state, need to scale up security in that environment. The Minister of Information, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, also spoke to Channels Television about the Safe School Initiative. I'll allow you to listen to Alhaji Lai Mohammed, then we'll allow Senator Ali Ndume's thoughts on some of these critical national issues.
Even in the most developed country in the world, school kidnapping takes place. Last year in the US, we also witnessed at least 3 or 4 school kidnappings. And that is probably one of the most developed countries in the world. Now, the thing about terrorism is that the terrorists don't live by your own rules. And they are especially, interested in soft targets. See, they know that what is going to get global attention is actually kidnapping school children. And we must be careful also. We can't turn all our schools into barracks.
Well, Senator Ali Ndume now joins us from our Abuja studio. He is the Senate Chairman, Committee Chair on the Army. Thank you so much, Senator, for joining us tonight on the program. Perhaps we should begin the conversation around some of the issues that are on the table. Perhaps let me get your view first and foremost on the comments, on the reactions of the president on the issue of the bandits and banditry in the country. Take a listen to, or let me show you what the president said. He said, at the same time, we're confronting the various dimensions of security challenges that continue to slow down the emancipation of our people from poverty and economic deprivation. the government shall continue to deal with insurgents, bandits, kidnappers, and other criminals who constitute a threat to innocent citizens across the country. Criminals are criminals and should be dealt with accordingly without resorting to ethnic profiling. Those are some of the words from the presidency. Senator, let me get your reaction to what has become a major challenge, and people were thinking that maybe we are finding it difficult to resolve these issues.
First of all, let me say I completely agree with the stand of Mr. President on the various forms of criminality that is going on around the country. No government will accept criminals taking over or even placing themselves as government within government. So I agree with what Mr. President said. And I also encourage the President to place this as his major priority, or even go to the extent of declaring a state of emergency in the security sector to deal with the security, because without peace, you can't make any progress. Nothing will make sense if the country is not secured. And as I kept saying every time, that security and welfare of its citizens is the main purpose of any government. And I think the President is committed since the beginning of the year with the steps that he has taken so far. I'm sure if it continues like this and the government is giving the necessary support, we'll soon get over these criminalities and other forms of security threats here and there.
You're one of those who advocated for an overhaul of the security architecture, but are you satisfied? Are you impressed with what the president has done so far?
So far, it's good. What the president has done is what Nigerians wanted for a very long time. It came, and the president sent a message. I remember vividly during the first, his New Year message. He said the security apparatus will be rejigged and that all efforts will be geared towards solving the security problem in the country. And we see it. The new service chiefs have started working. And from Borno angle, where the epicenter of Boko Haram is, there are results. But as I kept on saying, they can't achieve much without the necessary equipment, modern equipment, the intelligence and the number. Fortunately, the intelligence cycle or the synergy that is required, particularly between the armed forces and security, has improved tremendously. And Mr. President, to interest on the issue of security has also been, has increased recently. Every time anything happens, Mr. President tries to respond, unlike before. So I think Mr. President should be commended and also urged to do more, especially in terms of funding the security agencies and increasing the number of security personnel, their training, and giving them what they need in order to bring this to an end.
A very strong critic of this government, Ms. Aisha Yesufu, who was on the program on Friday when we were asking, he said she's lost hope in the manner in which the president has handled things, but you think otherwise. You think that the president is doing well. The president has said that the government will not condone further attacks, but we keep seeing these attacks. How do you defend that stance when we see this kind of attacks and you say, oh, well, it looks like the president is doing well?
Well, the attack and the president's response or our security agencies' response are two different things. When attacks happen, it's not the government that is responsible for attack. The reaction of the government is what matters. And as I said so far, the reaction of government to all these unfortunate events is commendable. And that is not to say you can get over it overnight. But the government needs to do more, especially in terms of equipping and increasing the number of personnel and giving them what they really need in order to do that. We have gallant officers. They are very intelligent, very hardworking, but you can't. They have excelled in missions outside the country, all over the world. But they do that because they have what it takes to prosecute the war or the assignment given to them. And that's why I've been saying that the army or the armed forces should be equipped. Even though most of these things are not off-the-shelf materials that you can get, yet the government should, explore other options to make sure that the Nigerian armed forces have all that they need in order to address this. This is not a war, conventional war. We are not fighting another country. We have the forces on ground, but they need what it takes, especially modern equipment, surveillance equipment, monitoring equipment, intelligence gathering. All this takes a lot of money, and they need to be given those things in order for them to perform. You can't expect somebody to perform if he doesn't have what it takes to do the assignment given to him. We call them armed forces. That means the number one priority is army, arms, ammunition, and those are lacking as far as I'm concerned. They are not sufficient enough. Two, when you say Air Force, it means that they must have air capabilities, and that translates to things like fighter jets, attack helicopters, and all that. They must have enough of that, and given the adequate training in order to manage those equipment, it's very, very important. It's unfortunate we find ourselves in this position. We have been lacking in that area, and the build-up is not easy.
All right.
It takes time. But we have to explore all options in order to make sure that the Nigerian armed forces have all that they need or what it takes in order to solve this problem. It should be placed as a major national priority.
All right.
And I'm not satisfied, I must be honest with you, with still the funding of the armed forces and our other security agencies. Their funding, their number is not enough compared to our population of over 200 million now. And when you look at our defense spending or military spending, compared to other poor countries around us, you see that we are not doing enough. We have to do more.
Okay, let's take another break, Senator. And when we return, there are some critical questions I'd like you to speak to. Negotiation or not, what approach is best to end the abductions and the banditry? We continue our conversation with Senator Ali Ndume after this time out, everyone. Join us again. Our conversation with Senator Ali Ndume is a chairman of the Senate Committee on the Army. Let me show you this map, Senator. Not an interesting thing to behold. And some of these recent school abductions from what happened in your home state of Chibok in your state, Borno, to what we saw in Dapchi in Yobe State, and up to Kankara in Katsina, and Kagara now, which is the latest one. I mean, then the Jangede situation that we saw. These are school abductions. Let me get your views on these issues of abductions. First and foremost, Senator, these bandits, from your understanding on what you know about the situation of things, are they some element of Boko Haram in another form?
Well, I can't say exactly is whether they are a form of Boko Haram or whatever, but I know that it's another kind of criminality that is going on. And it's unfortunate. It started in Chibok, and we had that in Yobe, and now it's happening almost like everywhere in the northwest. And the government really need to look at it. Its investigation or intelligence should show whether it has anything to do with Boko Haram or not. But one thing for sure is that they are well armed, and then they have been carrying out these atrocities here and there and almost on daily basis. And as the president said, and the nation is crying out, this thing must stop. And it should stop within the shortest possible time.
Would you advocate, or does it make sense for you, for any government, either state or federal, though the federal government has said they wouldn't negotiate with them, these bandits, but some people are asking for a blanket amnesty. What do you think of that?
Well, everybody holds his opinion. I don't think blanket amnesty is the solution, because if you do that, another form of criminality may emerge, hoping that the government will bring them to negotiation table. I think the carrot and stick approach should be used in dealing with this kind of situation. We know we have to go down to find out the roots of the causes of this banditry that were witnessed in the Northwest particularly, and the arming of headsmen and people that are involved in this. The government should, I think as a matter of emergency, form a committee of eminent people or those people that can reach out and then get to the root cause of this and also find a solution to it. I know, for example, the Fulanis, they have leadership from top to bottom, very organized leadership. So much so that even in my place, if you want to get Fulanis in one place, you can simply do that by getting one of their leaders, they normally call Ardo, to call for a meeting. We do that as politicians. In my place, I've been doing that. And they distribute cola to everybody, and within no time, they will be where you want them to be, and they talk. They have a leadership there. I think that is what the government needs to look at. They need to look at people that can go in there and talk to these people and find out, because there are criminals there, there are terrorists in there, there are armed robbers in there, but all of them now are mixing up with the Fulanis, or as you call them, or the headsmen. And the headsmen, too, some of them are carrying the arms they are carrying in order to protect themselves, the way they see it, because they don't know so much about the law. This problem started with cattle rustling and the other lapses in our security system. So a holistic approach should be kickstarted to address this problem. And I believe that it can be done with all manner of seriousness. And we need to do it, because time is not on our side, and others more are coming in, because once they discover that once you have one person or two or three with AK-47, you can go into a school and almost round up everybody, or you can just put a roadblock on the road and take away people from their buses or their travelers, and then make demands. And then the other thing is that the system must, evoke a fast justice system where justice will be dispensed. I've said several times that you see people paraded and that will be the end of it. Or if you get somebody who is involved in kidnapping and the person, the ransom paid will be like 10 million, but if the security agencies ask the apprehended people there, or the accused, they will end up with a very meager amount. And it seems it's a big network that must be busted by the government. And the earlier that is done, the better.
All right. Senator, my earlier questions as regarding whether or not these banditry or bandits are some kind of new face of Boko Haram is because of the attacks on Western education facilities in the country. And that's the reason why I asked, because Boko Haram will say is against Western systems. So that's the reason why I asked that question. And a lot of Nigerians wanted to understand whether or not these are the new face of Boko Haram. But you spoke about funding for the military. But a question will come when you talk about that, when you advocate for more funds. In 2018, there was an approval of about $1 billion to purchase arms. The question will be, what has become of that fund and the arms in which were purchased with those funds?
The $1 billion approved was basically for the purchase of the Tucanos that are they are in the procurement process. It takes time for it to be manufactured. I understand that the first batch of whether 6 or 7 or thereabouts will be coming in around June. So 1 billion, that translates to how much? 400 at our rate now, 400 billion. Our budget is 13 trillion, and the country is not secured. if you spend that, if you ask many Nigerians, if you ask many Nigerians whether the government should spend half of the 13 trillion in order to secure the country, I, for one, and I believe many Nigerians will say, go ahead, because without peace, you cannot do anything.
Okay.
So the issue of...
so I wanted to I wanted to get a follow-up on some of the other issues you raised. And this time around, I'd like you to comment on some of the appointment the president has made, which has received a lot of criticism. The ex-service chiefs that are being appointed as non-carrier ambassadors. The EFCC, Mr. Bawa, the EFCC chairman, and also the question as regarding the allegation of the IGP's tenure. There's been criticism about the president's decision. What's your take on that?
Well, let me take it one after the other. The appointment of ambassadors is a constitutional duty and a privilege of Mr. President. When these people were eased out as service chiefs, and the president feels that they can still be useful, and I support that because one of the problems we have in this fight against insurgency, banditry, and other forms of criminality is the loophole that we have in military diplomacy. So I'm of the view that these people can be useful in terms of running around other countries, especially because we as Nigerians don't have the capacity or self-sustaining military. We don't have the capacity to supply our military, meet the demands of our military requirements. And therefore, I believe, especially in that area of military diplomacy, the former service chiefs can be useful. That is for the service chiefs. And as for Bawa, I personally feel that this is one of the best appointments the president has made so far. I'm surprised when the people are talking about somebody that is 40 years and have put in close to 20 years service. You call him a young man. He's not a young man. Young people should be people that are below the age of 35. Or that's what, to my definition anyway. And I don't know what is the yardstick of that. So Bawa, as you can see, he presented himself well. He's well read. He has a credible, he has a very impressive CV, and he started his career in EFCC, and still they are very, intelligent individual. So I think that appointment is welcome. And but then I hope that the environment that has been beclouded by uncertainties of meddling, so much meddling in the commission's affairs previously will not be there, so that the young man will do his job without hindrances.
All right, Senator, I guess that would be a very good point for us to leave it, because we are totally out of time. But I must sincerely thank you. Anytime we invite you on the program now, it's a pleasure having your thoughts on some of these critical issues. The Senate Committee Chair on Army, Senator Ali Ndume. Thank you, Senator, for coming tonight.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And that's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Okimale. Bye-bye.